Hello, I'm Bhavin, founder and CEO of Magoosh. I'm going to talk about how lean startup principles have helped save my company tens of thousands of dollars, and also how we've ingrained these principles into our everyday culture and values at Magoosh. So what is Magoosh? Well, we help students prepare for standardized tests, like the SAT, the ACT, the GMAT, the GRE. But instead of paying thousands of dollars for a class or a tutor, students pay on average less than $100. Because that customer lifetime value is so low, we've needed to stay lean. So what does that mean? Well, with less than $1 million raised over 4 or 5 years ago, we're now doing over $10 million in annual revenue with only 2 software engineers. We've done this by really validating what we build before we build it. And we've done it by creating a cohesive set of core values that are a decision-making framework for our team when faced with an opportunity where you can go one way or another. And what we've done is we've mapped 2 of these values directly to the lean startup framework. So the first one, done over perfect. This maps to the build phase. And the idea is you take something big and you implement the smallest possible change that can move in the right direction. And then it marries really well with the next value, data over intuition. And this maps to the measure and learn phases of the lean startup. Here, you're not making a decision. Each decision's an experiment. So you need to actually go back and measure and make sure we should continue or we shouldn't. So let's look at an example. So we have a product for the TOEFL. It's the test of English as a foreign language. About 1 million people take this test, non-native English speakers, to go to school in the US. And we had a conversion rate problem. This product was not converting as well as some of our other products. So Lucas, who, some interesting facts, was never familiar with the lean startup before, never worked at a startup before, but he was tackling this challenge at Magoosh, and he was intimately familiar with our values and used them. So a little bit more about the TOEFL. So it's unique in that half the test is speaking and writing. So this is challenging for a technology company to handle. It's not a typical test where students submit a multiple choice answer or fill in the blank answer. Students were actually submitting speaking and writing samples. So as Lucas did his research, the feedback came back that, hey, we would consider buying Magoosh, we'd consider converting if we had expert grading of our speaking and writing. This is the biggest hurdle. So the students had spoken, the data had spoken. So Lucas got in the mentality of, hey, let's solve this. Brainstormed some ideas, thought about peer grading, realized, well, that's not expert grading. Thought about grading in-house, but we have such a low price point that that would have made the product unprofitable. So what else can we do? Well, third-party tools. That was exciting. Hey, we can solve this with technology. We started talking to companies, we did some samples, got really excited and realized, this could be interesting. But it was a really big bet. It felt heavy. And so Lucas paused and he said, wait, what about our core values? Again, not familiar with the lean startup, but didn't feel like we were implementing this in a done over perfect way and wanted to make sure that the students actually wanted speaking and writing in order to convert. So from there, he ran an A/B test. Version A said we don't grade speaking and writing. Version B said we grade speaking and writing. The key here is behind the scenes, things were a little messy, but this was a test to validate are students actually interested in converting with speaking and writing grading. And so he came up with a simple grading process, a rubric. Students would only receive a score. They wouldn't receive any feedback, because again, we're not testing the quality of feedback. We can do that later. We were testing, will students convert? And the results were failure, which was actually a good thing, but it's good we knew that now. The improvement was small, but not statistically significant, did not pass our bar for where we would move forward with the test. And the reason it was a good thing is because this experiment ended up costing us about $3,000 to $5,000. So some of Lucas's time, he set up the experiment, he monitored it, he trained some of our other graders on how to approach it. But if we'd actually implemented the solution, well, it would have cost $30,000 to $50,000 at least. We would have had to grade hundreds of essays per prompt to train these third-party tools. We would have had engineering resources, we would have had UX, and we would have been wrong. And so we've used this approach throughout our company dozens and dozens of times. We've used this lean approach, we've mapped them to our values, and we validate what we're working on in order to see our company grow and profit. And the amazing thing about this is 80% of our employees have not worked at a startup before. Most are, I would say almost 90% are not familiar with the lean startup principles, but we've done this using our core values. Thank you.